All right, you heard it here first. Indianapolis Colts are going undefeated and will be headed to the 2025 Super Bowl. You heard it here first. Thanks, everybody. All right, now that we got everybody triggered out of the way, welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice, your guys, Cody and Derek. Derek, we had to do it because it's funny. We were talking off air, and this video, just by the title alone, I guarantee you 99% of the people who watch this video will not have even gotten to this point yet. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about this thing we talk about every year, Derek, that seems to trigger at least a few people. But I think it's always an interesting conversation because obviously the Colts have been in different spots, when it comes to contending and everything like that. But, if you haven't been able to tell by the title of the video, we're going to talk about the question that we ask every offseason. How far away are the Colts from being a Super Bowl contender? Now, Derek, I'll say this right off the bat. From where we were a year ago when we were talking about this conversation to now, things have certainly changed in the positive for the Indianapolis Colts, right? If you remember, man, 2022 season, very forgettable for the Colts. I mean, Derek, I remember at the end of the season, we were ready. We were so ready for the season to be over, ready for the offseason, and it was the complete opposite this year. The team was fun. They were competitive. And I think a lot of guys showed out for you, and you felt really, really good about the direction and the future of this team. It's wild to me, Derek, how crazy and how much of a difference 1 year can make for the trajectory and the outlook of a football team. What are your thoughts on the Colts' outlook this year as opposed to last?
Well, it's no doubt that the Indianapolis Colts are in a much better situation than what they were in 2022. I mean, I'll even take it a step further, Cody. I think this is the best that the Indianapolis Colts have been in team-wise and organization-wise since the moment Andrew Luck retired. Honestly, I think this is the best moment that you're at in this organization's recent history. And for that reason being, the main reason, you have the coach. You have the coach who you feel confident can take this team to greater heights. I don't know if after those first couple years with Frank Reich, I think everyone started to kind of question whether or not Frank Reich really had it in him to really lead this team and take this team in the right direction. We immediately thought he had it because he had Andrew Luck there to start, right? And that was kind of your situation. And the team was really good, and they were fighting for those playoff spots. And then the Andrew Luck news happened, and then it never got fixed. From a quarterback perspective, from a coach perspective, a personnel perspective, absolutely, it has been abysmal. Now, I will say this, Cody, and we'll talk about a bunch of the different factors in it, but mainly it just comes down to, do you have the right coach? Do you have the right quarterback? Do you have the right personnel to be able to take yourself to where you want to go? I will say from the personnel perspective, I know we're not there yet. Clearly, we're definitely not 100% there when it comes to the personnel of everything. But I go back to the coach argument. Again, I have full confidence in Shane Steichen. I do firmly believe that Shane Steichen and how he has built this culture within a year and took an injury-ridden team and the second youngest team in the NFL at that, almost to the playoffs with a backup quarterback for the majority of the season. I sit here and say I have full confidence that Shane Steichen is going to not only improve, but he is going to make everyone improve around him. And he's going to be better as a play caller. He's going to be better at situational awareness, knowing how to manage the game, all of these different things. And that's where it starts, is having a coach that has the pedigree, the game planning, and the knowledge to be able to lead these men to where they want to go. And I think Shane Steichen has it.
And I think another thing, Derek, within that is the preparation, having your team prepared to play in the big moments. Now, again, obviously, we know the Colts did not make the playoffs, but Derek, the Colts were in that game. They were competitive to the end. Like, there's no question about that. And I know there's a few games where the Colts kind of got off of being competitive at times, but I mean, you do, like you talked about it, how much of that was, the limitations of Gardner Minshew? How much of that was, some of the injuries adding up, Braden Smith being injured, not having some of your starting corners for a good chunk of the season, right? So not making excuses, but just saying, man, like Shane Steichen at a lot of times in 2023 was very shorthanded in terms of the players we thought the Colts would have, the personnel that we thought the Colts would have at certain points and their availability. And it didn't necessarily match up with what was true in 2023, but still the Colts were competitive, right? Shane Steichen proved that he is a legitimate head coach in the NFL and he can handle, that play calling. That was, I know, a question mark. It is with any head coach, some coaches have it, some coaches don't. I mean, we saw with Frank Reich, especially later on in his tenure, it was obviously something that was a little bit too much for him to handle. We even saw that in Carolina. It was too much on his plate. But Shane Steichen proved that he can do that, right? And, it's just absolutely crazy, Derek, to see now just the optimism of this team. I would throw in 2020. That was probably the most optimistic I've been, obviously Andrew Luck and all that stuff. But 2020 was, you feel good, all right. But you still, at the end of the day, you didn't know who your future franchise quarterback was going to be, right? And we still don't 100% know with Anthony Richardson, obviously, because of the injury. But you feel really good. There's a lot of room for optimism for the Colts moving forward. I just made a video actually right before we recorded this one, but it'll probably come out before this one, just about why the future is bright in Indianapolis. Like, there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot of young guys who stepped up. There's some key veterans who are still young in their own right that played really good football. And there's a really good core group of players. And you get back some of these factors. You get back a healthy Anthony Richardson. You get back a healthy Jonathan Taylor, who's not, not going to have that whole issue with the contract and is probably going to be likely to go. And you're going to actually have them play together in training camp for the entirety of the offseason. Like that kind of stuff that you just didn't have last year. You have another year of some of these young guys, like the young corners, for example, gaining experience, getting better, and you have another offseason to add some more talent, right? I mean, you would talk about, Derek, you added a couple guys in free agency that I know Matt Gay had some issues, and Samson Ebukam had a few games where he wasn't, necessarily being a game record, but two guys that definitely made a positive impact on your team, and you have $70+ million in cap space. Now, obviously, you'll have to bring back a few of your own guys, which we've talked about, but you have some room to not just stay pat, but go and improve your roster and push it to the next level. It was a 9-win football team, which is obviously huge for what it was last year. And now you have the potential for the division. You have the potential to be a double-digit win football team with all of those factors and other factors as well that I haven't even mentioned. So I think that is a lot of room for optimism. And hey, you know what? If you get in and you have a quarterback like Anthony Richardson with just how much he can do and how dangerous he is, you just need an opportunity. That's all you need. I don't care if you're the number 1 seed or the final seed in the AFC playoffs. I truly believe that with a healthy Anthony Richardson, the Colts can compete with anybody. I mean, they showed they could do it with backups. Now just think about the dynamic ability of Anthony Richardson. And I think that you look at that and you say, hey, look, I think the Colts can go toe-to-toe with any team. They could do it with a backup quarterback. Why couldn't they do it with a quarterback that's ascending and young and clearly more athletic than Gardner Minshew was? And getting all these guys back, getting another year of Shane Steichen and his system. Like, I just think all these things, while as they were so great in 2023, just another year of this stuff, plus the addition of some outside help, I think just really bodes well for the Colts and just moving forward into being legitimate playoff contenders for the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we kind of already did a video on, the Colts having the opportunity to be able to do more things given the situation with Anthony Richardson and what the circumstances are going to look like going forward with him under a rookie contract. But I just look at it and I say to myself, if this was a team that could win 9 games with a backup quarterback, their running back missing half the year, their best tight end that they had missing the entirety of the year, and a secondary that was decimated from the moment they stepped on the football field. If you could say to me that they had that situation going on and you could still tell me they could win 9 games, and if you could see the explosiveness of Anthony Richardson, and if Anthony Richardson is any more dynamic than Gardner Minshew, then believe me, it's not that hard. It is not that hard to be that much more dynamic than Gardner Minshew. Then I'm sitting here saying to myself, there's just no reason that this team can't win 10 games, 11 games, and make the playoffs and be a contender. And at the end of the day, that's what you're at, right? If you're in the playoffs, you're automatically a contender. I don't care what anybody says. You're in there. You got a chance to make it to the big dance. And I mean, we talked about it. I mean, even talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and how they almost had a shot at it. I mean, I think they were a minute or two away from, having a chance to be able to play the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. And, that was a close game when they faced them earlier in the year. So, I mean, there's always a chance. And it's all about making the playoffs first. And that's the ultimate thing. And forget the Super Bowl thing with that. You have to get to the playoffs first before you can do anything else to get to that spot. And if you're in the playoffs, you're automatically a contender. And I think with a improved roster, which we know we're going to get after this year, because you're going to retain most of your guys, at least your star guys for sure. And then you're going to be able to bring in some new cats, bring in these guys are going to be a year older. They're going to be a year more wise and knowledgeable. And even your coach is going to be at that spot too. So I look there and I say to myself, it's the perfect scenario for Indianapolis to capitalize on what they have currently. And I'm sitting there, obviously, after this offseason, we know the Indianapolis Colts are not going to be at 100% even next year. I mean, there's still going to be a lot of things that they could probably do to drastically improve the roster. But like I said, I feel confident in Anthony Richardson's ability to keep this team moving forward. I feel extremely confident in Shane Steichen to keep this thing moving forward. And if you have the coach right and you have the quarterback right, there's no limit to what your team can do. And Indy has that opportunity right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, if obviously there's a lot of factors, there'll definitely be other things that come up. There's no question about that. But as we look here, looking forward into 2024, I think you really do look at, man, this team is a lot closer than we thought they were going into the 2023 season. Like, we really didn't know what this team was going to be. I mean, how many people, Derek, even people who cover this team for, on a daily basis, had the Colts winning, 5-6 games in 2023, and the fact that they basically doubled a lot of the projections out there, I think that's really, really awesome, and that's really exciting moving forward, because you look at this and you say, okay, like, this team's not as far away as some people want you to believe or some people thought originally. This team definitely has talent. They have leadership. They have guys in there that have, and play at high levels. They have guys that are some of the top at their positions. They really do. And if you think Anthony Richardson, like we said, if Anthony Richardson can come back and he can ascend to that point, he can really begin where he left off before he got injured. Because, I mean, that dude showed, I know it was only, a couple games, but that dude showed some poise in the pocket. He showed things that we didn't even think he would show in his rookie season, right? He showed his dynamic ability. And so that is obviously going to be the big question with Anthony Richardson. Can he stay healthy? Can he protect himself? Can he do all that stuff? Because we've seen different quarterbacks who have been dynamic but can't stay on the field. So if Anthony can do that, can learn from this injury early, I think the Colts are going to be in it, and they're going to be legitimate contenders for a long time, because the core is there, Derek, for this team to be a perennial playoff team for years to come. And now if they add a few more guys, like you said, I really do believe this is a team that can compete, and they showed they could compete when they were shorthanded. How about if you give them all the talent on the field at the same time? How much better could they be? So that in itself is very exciting. and very enticing. Again, on paper that sounds great, but things are going to happen during the season and in the off season, and we'll see. And maybe that changes some things. I don't know. But as it stands right now, man, you look at it and you say, all right, we feel pretty good about where this team is and where this team is moving forward to.
Absolutely. I feel extremely happy. And, all I can say is for the amount of trash talking I've been doing with the AFC South roundtable guys about Anthony Richardson in 2024 and what this team's going to be able to do, I hope they back up my words, because I've been talking a lot of smack, bro. I have really strong feelings for this team going into 2024. I mean, it just, maybe that is simply just the feeling of knowing that we went from being the worst team in football 2 years ago to being a playoff contender a year later, when we still didn't even have our best quarterback available for the entirety of the season. But nevertheless, man, I'm excited, man. This is going to be a really fun Indianapolis Colts team to watch in 2024.
Yep. And you mentioned it already. I'll say it again. If you get your head coach right, you get your quarterback right, you're going to be set for a long, long time. And the Colts have at least two of those guys that you believe in. Shane Steichen showed you his potential as a head coach. Anthony Richardson, when he was healthy, showed you his potential as a franchise quarterback. So if those two, that marriage there, if it can work out in the long term, this team's going to be great for a long, long time. But again, time will tell on that. But as we sit here, January of 2024, it really does look like the Colts' future is bright, and there's a lot to like about this team and their potential contention for a long, long time for a championship year in and year out. But guys, let us know your thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts. How far away do you think the Colts truly are from competing for a championship? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.